We have here today Rosanna Buehl, who's the granddaughter of the subject of my book, Ernest H. Buehl. And now we worked on this book together.
We did, for quite some time.
Yeah. But I'm wondering, maybe I'd like to get your impression. Unlike a lot of people that we see on TV, on shows like Finding Your Roots or something like that, you seem to have not too much interest in finding your roots. You seem to, just be, I don't know, just kind of in the here and now, and, here we are, and it didn't matter too much. I mean, it wasn't something you thought about where all this comes from. And so I don't think that the push to write this book came from you. What do you remember about that?
Well, you're right. I didn't have any, driving curiosity about my family. I felt as though I had met most of them. I knew all four of my grandparents. I lived with them to one degree or another. I was perfectly satisfied. I knew that 3 out of my 4 grandparents were from Germany and they had lived there forever. Mm-hmm. And I knew that my other grandmother was from Portugal, and as far as I knew, her family had lived there forever. So there weren't a lot of mysteries. No. At least not for me.
Mm-hmm. So where did the push come from?
For the book?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the push for the book came from my Aunt Sylvia, because she had all these materials that my grandfather, her father, had collected over the course of his lifetime. Things that I had never seen, things that I had never heard about. I don't consider that like Finding Your Roots kind of genealogy. It's more like his personal history, which has proven to be fascinating. And most of the family didn't know all these details. We knew great big stories. Mm-hmm. Most of them, it turns out, were fabricated by friends of his rather than the actual story, which is even more interesting. So, yeah, it's been a good adventure for both of us to get to know him a lot better.
So, since we worked on it, what did you learn?
Well, I learned about his role in opening up the oil fields in Canada, in Western Canada. Mm-hmm. When I first moved from Pennsylvania to Montana, he told me that he had flown out this direction and that he had been up into the Arctic. But at that point, there was no time really for me to explore that story. It's like he mentioned it on my way out the door, practically. And so, I didn't know anything about that history around Peace River and getting those JL-6 aircraft up there and why and how. And
sure. So he's like, oh, you're going to Montana? Oh, I've seen that place.
You're not going to like it, he told me. No trees.
No trees. It's very, So anyway, there were some stories that you really hadn't heard.
Yeah. The story about the transcontinental flight to open up the airmail route was all news to me.
So what were the stories that you knew about him before we wrote this book?
Oh, those stories. Okay. Well, starting with from a very early age, I was led to believe, and I believe it's still true, that he had the oldest flying school in continuous operation in Philadelphia. He started it in the late 1920s and maintained it into my lifetime and actually into my young adulthood. My father actually took over at some point in there, but it's a little foggy when exactly that transition took place. He had a number of airports because he kept establishing airports, and then suburbia would move in. And so he had to pick up and move to the next field and establish an airport. And so he did that several times.
I remember when I first went to meet him, we were driving into Philadelphia. And as we would drive by different locations, he would say, oh, my granddad had an airport here. Mm-hmm. And then we'd drive a few miles, and then, oh, he had another airport here. And it went on for a surprisingly long time.
There were quite a few of them. Yeah. Perhaps not as many as I led you to believe that day, because some of my facts were a little garbled at the time, too. But he did have, a daisy chain of airports that he operated over the course of his lifetime.
Okay, so you knew that story.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you know?
Oh, there was the fabulous swashbuckling story about how he flew an airplane between the Twin Towers on the cathedral in Munich.
Oh, yeah.
And you and I went to that cathedral.
Yeah.
And climbed up to the tops of those towers. Well, just one of them, actually. Climbed up to the top of the tower and looked across. And it's impressively close together, those two towers.
Yeah, it's a Frauenkirche in Munich.
Yes.
Yeah, we just looked across at from one tower to the next, and it was hard to imagine how someone would get an airplane through there.
Yeah.
But that was a story. Okay.
It was also a little hard to imagine because he never really liked those daring deeds of the, what do you call them? The daring flyers.
Okay.
Barnstormers.
The barnstormers. He didn't like the barnstormers.
He didn't particularly value their input because he was about bringing aviation into the hands of the common man. Not giving thrills, chills, and spills, but giving, this is a viable means of getting around. It's a fun hobby. You'll enjoy it. You get to do really cool things with an airplane that you can't do otherwise. That was his push, is to make airplanes very similar to family cars.
So, given that you had a variety of stories to begin with, did you learn anything that changed your ideas about him?
That's an interesting question. If by changed you mean that I have any greater or lesser respect for him, I would probably say I have a greater respect for him now that I know the truth of what all he did. He was involved in a lot of important things in the history of civilian aviation in particular. And, we all watch the movies and we see all about military aviation. He wasn't into that. That wasn't what he did. His idea is, as I said, like the family car, like the family boat, which, when certain times in our history of the United States, we all wanted to have one of each of those things.
Of course, yeah. Okay, so as I recall, for instance, Sylvia had a lot of stories about him, and things that she believed. And among other things, she believed that he was a great pilot.
And a World War I flying ace.
And a World War I flying ace.
Another part of that rumor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we found out...
Well, what we found out is that when he was in World War I, he was in the Bavarian army, not in the German army.
Yes.
And he was operating as a cook on the Eastern Front. And I remember one point saying to him something about military intelligence, and he said, "Oh, yeah, right." But the fact is that he was young at that point. He had not yet established his reputation as being an aviator of any description. And so they did what they did with most people, is they sent them where they were needed. He got to be the cook because he was a machinist. And as a machinist, he had some time on his hands because you only have to oil the guns every so often. And so they handed him a virtual ladle, I guess, and said, "Ding, you're the cook."
Sure, yeah, you've got some time on your hands. It was very interesting looking into that because he definitely never flew for the German army. His
brother did.
His brother did?
But he didn't.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. And he never flew. He was never in the air for the German Air Force.
He was lucky that way. He never fell out of the sky with those rickety aircraft.
Yeah, instead. But, the curious thing is, I remember going to his birthday party for his 85th birthday or something like that?
Yeah, 85th it might have been.
Yeah.
90th? I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, that's more or less where I met him, but there were people who stood up and said he was a World War I flying ace. And then he got up to speak and he said, I never flew during World War One.
Yeah.
I served in trenches on the Eastern Front fighting the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't change the stories that other people told about him at all. They continued to talk about him as having been a German ace.
The rumors about him were remarkably substantial.
Yeah,
They didn't cave easily because I think people wanted to believe them.
Yeah, I think they did.
And for his part, he kind of let them go. I mean, he didn't challenge the rumors particularly strongly. It's, it was to the benefit of his business to have people thinking of him this way or people talking about him. And, so he let a lot of things slide that weren't 100% true.
Yes.
But he didn't say them. Other people said them.
Yeah, it was funny. He told the truth, but people didn't. It was curious. So, he did have a lengthy and distinguished career. What do you think was his greatest accomplishment?
He did so many things. We've talked about opening up the oil fields in northern Canada. We've talked about opening up the airmail route. He was involved for some time with Amundsen, who was trying to fly over the North Pole.
That was another big story. I think that you knew at the time was that, early on, was that somebody was saying he'd flown with Amundsen.
Yeah.
On an
Didn't
expedition
quite get
over
that
the North
far,
Pole.
though.
Yeah.
He was working with a fellow who brought the JL-6 aircraft into the United States and working with Amundsen to get the plane and the trip ready. And one thing or another, it didn't work out. And he didn't go. Amundsen never took this particular aircraft when he went over the North Pole. He did it in a different fashion. But he knew Amundsen, and he had respect for Amundsen.
Worked with him.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just ask. Your grandfather, I think, achieved a lot as a trainer.
Yes, he did.
I don't know that he was himself. Well, by the time he was opening airports, I wouldn't say that he was necessarily a great pilot. He was a good pilot.
Yeah.
He
was.
He achieved a level of certification that's as high as you could go.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't the kind of pilot that you think of as being able to do impossible things, like some of the people he flew with.
There were a couple of factors there, I think. One is that for whatever reason, he never was comfortable in a closed cockpit aircraft.
Yeah, it's always open cockpits.
And that was his preference, always to fly an open cockpit. And as, the field matured, airplanes, people wanted to be inside because it's cold and windy up there.
Yes.
And not necessarily pleasant, except on the sunniest and warmest of days. And then the other extreme, it gets too hot without being enclosed in some fashion.
Yes.
So what he was is that he was a really excellent mechanic.
Yes.
He could listen to an engine and instantly tell what was right and what was wrong, and he knew just what to do, how to fix it. And he did that time and again. We saw the diaries that were written from that cross-country flight.
Yes.
And, they were, as there would be in those days. I mean, we're talking the 1920s.
Yeah.
Those aircraft needed constant maintenance because internal combustion engines were reasonably new. Airplanes were new. I mean, there was a whole technology that was evolving. It wasn't yet developed. And so he did have to be able to quickly diagnose and repair the aircraft that were in his charge, and he was able to do that. He was not the pilot on those flights.
Mm-hmm.
He was what some people would call the co-pilot. Some people would, I think at the time, they just referred to him as the mechanic.
Yes.
Because you could not fly an aircraft any distance without taking a mechanic with you.
Even automobiles at that time had mechanics. I mean, in automobile races like the Indy 500, you had a mechanic in the second seat.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just the bleeding edge of the technology at that time.
Yes, right.
So, there was that. And he went on to become a trainer. He would train people how to fly and help them get their license and so forth. And he did that to hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yes.
Starting
Possibly.
in 1928, when he
Yeah.
had his first aircraft,
Mm-hmm.
which he kept
Yeah.
until he was an old man.
Yeah, it's this, in fact, this aircraft right here.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
The old crate, as some people would
The
call
old
it.
crate.
In the family, we referred to it by the name of its engine, which was the OX5.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it's a 1927 Challenger with a 1916 OX5 engine in it.
Yeah, there's an OX5 club, and they're kind of a little cult around these things, but they're a really difficult engine.
Yeah, but he knew them.
Yeah, not many people
He
knew
could
them
fix
as well
them
as he
when
did.
nobody else could.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
And so he trained all these people. He was not afraid or reluctant to train people of color.
Yeah, that was quite surprising at the time.
That was a significant contribution to the United States, I believe.
Yes.
And he trained the chief, what do you call it? He trained Chief Anderson, who went on to work at Tuskegee, where the Tuskegee Airmen were trained. The Red Tails that we all know about because of that wonderful movie that was out a few years back. During World War II, all of the airports within so many miles of the East Coast were shut down by the government.
Yes.
And he was sent to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So he put a lot of people in the air.
He did. We've
met people who he trained and who worked with him, and the respect is just about universal.
Mm-hmm. He was indeed an excellent trainer.
Yes.
And he became actually an excellent pilot.
Yes.
I think over a period of time, he actually did become the pilot that people say in legends that he was.
Yeah.
He was excellent.
He certainly had a feel for the aircraft.
Oh my goodness, yes.
He didn't so much fly the plane as he wore it and went places with it.
Yeah, exactly. Did you ever fly with him?
No.
Oh.
He's my grandfather, so there's a bit of a distance in age between us. And I think by the time I was old enough to fly with him, he was at the point where, he's in his late 50s, early 60s. He's not actually flying anymore. So I never did fly with him. I remember one time when he got out the OX5 and he was going to fly it somewhere, and I went running out to say, "I want to go with you, Granddad." And my father said, "No." No.
Yes. But you did have some interesting times with him in the hangar.
I did.
Working on this aircraft.
It was when I was in high school, he decided that he was going to refurbish the aircraft. And he took the whole thing apart. He didn't disassemble the frame, but he, took off all the fabric that covered the wings and the fuselage. He rebuilt the engine from soup to nuts, as it were. And when it came time, he went out and he bought linen, bolts and bolts of linen, and recovered the entire aircraft. And this aircraft, I don't know if you can see it here, it has 4 wings. It has 2 across the top, which look like one wing, and then it's got another 2 on the bottom. It's a biplane, so it has 4 wings. And each of those wings has got a fascinating structure of ribs and spars and whatnot. And the fabric has to be fitted around these things. And then you have to take this, excuse me, dog, you have to take this long needle with linen thread, wax linen thread, and you pass it back and forth through the wings to sew the fabric down to the spars.
from person to person.
From person to person.
So,
well,
I mean,
if you could do it,
the wings are very wide. You can't just do it yourself. I mean, you could
you'd
probably
have to
put
have
it,
pretty long
but then you'd
arms.
have to run around the wing and then pull it.
Yeah,
But
you
two
could
people.
do that. Yeah, 2 people it goes pretty easily. And
Yeah.
I should have brought it with me. I have a little bit of that thread left.
Yes.
That I saved, and I continue to save just because I save things that are sentimental like that.
Well.
Anyway, so then he used his secret formula. And this is a formula that he took with him to his grave. He would never reveal how he made up this stuff. They call it dope.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on the fabric to stiffen it and make it more suitable for aircraft. And then over top of that, you put the paint.
Mm.
But he took the formula for that dope with him. Nobody will ever know. And it was apparently a good one because the fabric on that aircraft lasted a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
longer than average.
That was something that had to be done pretty frequently with the fabric-covered aircraft because every time you'd fly the thing, the fabric would stretch a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, it just wouldn't hold the airplane in the air.
Well, of course, linen is a natural fiber, and so it has a lifetime.
Exactly.
Yeah, even with all that other stuff on top of it. So, yeah, one of the things that inspectors used to have to do with when the airplanes were all fabric covered instead of metal covered is they'd have to go around with this little punch and they'd push it onto the fabric of the aircraft. And if it went through, your plane was grounded until you recovered it.
Interesting. You certainly hung out enough to absorb some interesting details that most people would not know anymore.
Yes.
But, yeah. Was there anything else that you'd like to say about the book or about your grandfather?
Well, I just want to say that the family spoke for years. Oh, we should write a book about Granddad. And, everybody thought, oh, it'd make a great movie, and let's get Earl Flynn to play him or something. So, you know how it goes. The family gets together and starts spinning tales. But
sure.
The fact is that no one in the Buehl family would do it. There was always one reason or another. But some of us don't have the writing skills. Other of us don't have the time. You make us all look good. You took that story and you dissected it. You went and dug through all of those records that he had. And there were lots of pictures, lots of words, lots of stuff. We still haven't deciphered the letters he wrote to his mother.
Yeah.
Or that she wrote to him. I guess those are the ones we have. So there may, in fact, be more information out there, but you did a wonderful job of pulling together all the information. And you weren't satisfied to just take the word of the documentation in your hand. You actually went well beyond that to research it. You interviewed people. You went places to do research. The family owes you a huge debt, and we thank you.
Well, thank you. It was a great project.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It has been.
And it's, spun off a couple of other projects. We look forward to what your next book is going to be.
Well, thank you. Yes. Well, thanks so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay.